Welcome, everyone. I would like to call this Planning Commission work session to order for Thursday, February 19th, 2026. My name is Jack Haroon, and I am the Vice Chair of the Clark County Planning Commission. Before we begin tonight, I would like to announce that our Planning Commission work sessions are hybrid, both in person and via WebEx. For the virtual and in-person members of the Planning Commission and staff, please ensure that your microphones are turned off or muted unless you are speaking. There will not be any public comment during this work session, but members of the public can watch or listen. This evening's agenda is planned as follows. We'll call to order Planning Commission rules of procedure, comments from members of the Planning Commission, and then we'll have adjournment. Did I miss anything? There was something else. All right, and that being said, Oliver.
Yes, good evening, Planning Commission members and Vice Chair. For the record, my name is Oliver Ojako, Community Planning Director. What we have before you is a proposed amendment to your rules of procedure. The last time your rule of procedure was amended and became effective was February 17th, 2022. And the changes that led to that amendment has to do with public testimony, both oral and written testimony. So what is being added to your rules of procedure is section 12, appointment by council. This is the same process that the Clark County Council used in appointment of new members or reappointment of existing members of the PC. So I will quickly just go through that and highlight what is being proposed. As I indicated, this is just straight out of the board and commission appointment. As some of you are aware, the Clark County Council appoints the Planning Commission members. It's not, and this is consistent with the county's charter, it's not, you're not a body that the county manager appoints. It's the county council. So this is really the process that they go through. First of all, if there is expiring term, we will notify and all of you knows when you're appointed, when your term runs and when it ends. So some of you are appointed by 4 or 6 years. So when that approaches, we typically will let the state floor know, and the county manager's office will publish a press release soliciting letters of interest and resume of vacant position, sometimes even existing position. They have to do so. And then the office will send all letters of interest and resume received to the county council. And within 2 weeks after sharing candidate information, the council in executive session will schedule a council meeting to discuss the qualification of applicant. This is all straightforward. So that is what we are adding to your rule of procedure so that the public, those that may be applying when a position comes up, will know what the process is all about. So that's really what this is. And because your rules of procedures typically will have a work session, and this will go to a hearing on March 19th for you to deliberate on and make changes. We are not proposing any other changes. If this is adopted or approved following your March meeting, you can see from section 13 what we added there, and then the numbering will change based on this new addition. So I will stop there and see if you have any questions. This is really self-explanatory.
Sorry. Jump in. Okay. Was the interview process a public hearing process prior to this?
The interview process is typically public, but I know it's done through WebEx, but it's public. The public can watch. There is a WebEx link where the public can listen in and watch. Yes, it's public. But the council will make a determination probably in executive session of who to call for an interview, because we got a laundry list like this says. They will go through and review the letters of interest and resumes and then decide on who to interview.
Yeah, thanks. I just didn't recall that when I went through the interview process that it was a public process. It seemed more like it was a closed door executive session, but maybe I was wrong.
There's typically a part that's executive session, and then typically after that, it becomes public. They can't vote on anybody in executive session. The vote has to be public.
Thanks.
Sure.
Is there any other questions from the?
Okay. Oliver, I just wanted to ask, is there a reason that the interview questions needed to be determined in a public meeting? Is that the way it was before as well? Because I don't recall having access to those questions prior to going into the interview.
I believe that that is up to the council. I don't think they share that with the applicants. That is what the council determined what the question would be. I think they probably do that. The last time I watched, they did that through the WebEx. If you tune in, they determine the question and agree to that, and who is gonna, just like a job interview, how many questions that they agree to, who's gonna ask the first one, and so forth. So that's my experience. But you don't see, the applicants don't see the question ahead of time.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yeah, to follow up on what Kyle was just asking, I think in 12E1, it says interview questions will be determined in a public meeting and will be the same for all candidates. So it almost seems like they must, if they participated in the public portion of it, they would understand what the questions were.
Yeah, they do that before they call you in. So if someone from outside is listening in, you will see where the council will go through the questions before they begin the interview. So that technically is public. Go ahead, Chris.
But that also means that the applicants can see them.
I'm sorry. If the applicants are online, they can see, not that they can see the questions, the council will probably say question 1, question 2, question 3. I have observed them. Sometimes they read that, and sometimes it is within the discussion of the council or what the questions are before they determine who is going to ask 1, 2, or 3. But I know that occurs through their WebEx before they started calling in the candidates to come in for the interview.
But it's public.
Yes.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Berthold. I have a question. Is this the same procedure for all commissions or any other body like us throughout the county? Do they do this?
This is only applicable to the boards and commissions that the council appoints. For example, the Historical Preservation Commission, the Board of Equalization of Assessment, those are the only three, and the Planning Commission that the council appoints. So it's a normal process that they follow for those three commissions that they appoint. The other commissions, whether it's Commission on Aging or Veterans and any other bike and pedestrian, that is the function of the county manager.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
This Commissioner Haroon, question on, I guess the question on the questions. Is there a legal reason why we're asking the exact same questions? Is it?
Yes.
Would you, I would love a little more color to that. I think because my concern is, let's say you're picking between, you know, you had a couple of open spots and you had maybe you were developer heavy or something, and maybe you wanted, or maybe you needed a builder type person, but then you also wanted some agricultural type people on there. And then the questions, and maybe there was like 2 agricultural people that were great candidates, but you wanted to ask like some questions specific to ag and their knowledge of what they're bringing to the table. And then the builder, you're going to ask maybe some very specific, you're not going to ask them about sprinkler systems or water rights or, you know, the issues there. And so it kind of seems to put everybody into a very rote, like formulaic box versus having some real color and in-depth insight into what each person's experience is. So I guess that would be my thing. So,
Well, the purpose of the Planning Commission is not to have experts on sprinkler systems or, you know, whether they're from developing sprinkler systems or from using sprinkler systems or whatever. This is a group that advises the county council on issues relevant to the entire county. And for all sorts of personnel related interviews, whether it's folks like you all or whether it's employees, we ask the same questions. And it is up to the county council to ask some really good questions. And they typically do, like, what do you bring to this? And then it's up to you to talk about your expertise if you think that that is relevant and valuable, which it probably is.
okay, no, I was just, yeah, I guess it does make sense from keeping everybody on the same exact track box, but from a interviewee box, you're like, oh, I'd really like to follow up with what they just said, but I can't. So.
Yeah, so that's all I have. We're here to take questions. Like I said, this is really to provide the public a knowledge of the process, and you know, so, and as well as you planning commission members, when your term comes up, you know the procedure that the council uses to go through the process of appointing new members or reappointing existing ones. But it starts with the press release and folks submitting their resume and interest. That's really what it's all about. The rest is what the council decides to do. And this is the process that they've been following.
This is Ron Barker. I guess, Oliver, the only thing that I see is still, I'm kind of stuck on that 12E1 about determining the questions in a public meeting and having it be the same for all the candidates. I can see the aspect as Christine outlined about the idea of giving everybody the same questions. The aspect of having them ahead of time and being able to prepare for them doesn't seem to me to be as enriching as if they hear the questions for the first time and have to be able to formulate an answer based on that moment in time. So I don't know whether it's a requirement somewhere that we feel like we have to make the questions public ahead of time. It feels like there'd be a variety of ways of coming up with the questions without having to have a public meeting for the council to do that. As an example, I guess you could ask any one of the counselors to bring 3 questions that they want to ask. They only get to choose one at that time. And whomever hears one, the next candidate will hear that same question from that same counselor. But it would be eye-opening, I think, to not have the person have an opportunity to prepare.
My thought is that because there is some serious question about this, that planning might want to think about it, that one, and think about how it at least might be clarified. I don't know, maybe it's totally clear and I just think it's odd.
It does seem clear, and it is odd.
It does seem clear, but odd. Like I said earlier, this is, being adapted from the board and commission appointment. Oh, Michael. Yeah, we are just adopting this from, I won't call it plagiarism, but this is just the exact language from the board and commission appointments. And I wasn't planning to change anything, but because any change in this will also require the council amending this that have already been approved. Yeah, because like I said, this is just verbatim. You can have it. It's verbatim from the board and council. The goal, yeah, look at section 3. This is just what it is. And we just try, the goal is to make sure that the public have an idea of what the process is that the council goes in appointing new members, because we typically post this on your website, your rules of procedure, so that the public knows what it is. Just like when we amended your public and public testimony and oral, both oral and written, the public knows, and again, when to submit, giving an example of when to submit written testimony. Often when we make that change, we were really getting to folks submitting comment 5 minutes to your hearing. You wouldn't have opportunity to read them. We wouldn't have opportunity to react to them. So that's why we made those changes. But any suggestion that you can make, that's fine. This is your rule of procedure. I didn't change anything out of this board and commission appointment. We just want to make it consistent.
This is Commissioner Berthold. I would like to see that someone in county human resources be consulted, because I know, having been in charge of classified personnel, there are some standing rules and procedures, and see how this aligns with the way the county does regular interviews, fix questions. I would like to see it reflect that personally.
Sure, I will pass that on to the county manager and see where we go from there. But I know that I'm not sure what role the HR plays in the council interview of candidates for various commissions.
I don't
Right.
think HR is involved in that as a
No.
rule.
Yeah.
But there are some basic procedures that they use. That's what I would like to see applied here. Which I think would probably cut out the public selection of questions or selection of questions that the public can observe. Yeah.
Well, right now, this is part of, as Oliver said, and he showed to me, the counselors' business processes, which are adopted by the council or written down, so forth and so on. Now, it makes sense to me if someone has a large objection to them that we talk to the county manager about it, but that is what is kind of set in stone at the moment, though it's not unchangeable. That is what it is. Which also, by the way, has the ask the same questions to everybody part in it. And I can tell you that that is absolutely a process that is followed when employees are being hired.
Correct.
Are those questions determined just before the interviews, or are they the same question for all interviews that have been going on forever? So that the questions are always been public knowledge.
I don't know. So I cannot really say for certain whether that is have been the practice of the commissioners or now councillors. But I would suspect that based on the resumes and that they have reviewed and interest shown, that the council will likely come up with questions that they would like to ask. Often I hear them ask your knowledge of GMA, for example, and like Chris indicated, what qualifies you for the serving on the planning commission. So, but Chris is correct that in my observation, they ask the same question of each of the candidates that they chose to interview.
It seems in that process then that most of these candidates have going to have an idea of what they want to say, and if you've been through interview processes before, the questions are generally very similar, and knowing something minutes ahead of time before you walk into the room may not have changed the way that they're going to respond to questions anyways. So I suppose another scenario could be that the candidates are isolated, so they can't hear the public debate on the questions before they walk into the room or through the WebEx. No, okay, that's just a scenario.
You would eliminate them from a public process.
Yeah, so there's like no good process, nothing, no good scenario around this, is there? And except that the questions generally can be very general, and they would be prepared to answer them and have their statements anyways.
Yeah, that's true. But as you know, intuitively, no one will answer the same question the same way as someone else, depending on what they bring to the table and their expertise and the area and the nature of the question being asked. I've gone to job interview knowing that those that were interviewed before me will answer differently, have different experiences. So I can't speak to that, but I know that the same question I ask of each candidate, it might be phrased differently and follow up and all of that, but it's almost the same question either way you look at it.
Usually not even framed differently.
Yeah, it's the same.
The paper.
Yes, it's the same. Yeah.
So the scenario here would be to be the last candidate to be interviewed. So you've got to, you've had more time to formulate your answers based on what you've heard from the other candidates.
Yeah, if you take, for example, the fact that we now use WebEx, when an interview is conducted, the panel meets, go over the questions, and determine who is going to ask what questions and what are they looking for. And before they call the candidate in, sometimes the candidate don't see and know what the question or how many questions or how many people will be on the panel. But as I indicated, if the council decide that you do not want this to be public, as Chris indicated, this will still be the business process that the council follows. The only difference is that the public and those who are applying wouldn't know. This is the only reason why we're proposing to amend your rules to make this very clear for the public to know how the council goes about choosing the board that they appoint. The other commissions that the county manager, I don't have that in front of me to see whether this is similar, but this is, like I said earlier, this is just out of this board and commission's appointment, only relating to those that the county council approves. Just like, the planning commission, your other bylaws and everything is based out of the RCW that requires appointment of a planning commission. And the planning commission, for all I know, was created by ordinance dating back to 1959, following the RCW that we're operating under. And as you can see, we haven't changed anything else. What is in front of you as was adopted and became effective February 17th of 2022. So nothing else is being proposed to change. But if you do not want this to be part of this amendment, we will certainly take that into consideration. And but I'm not prepared yet to make any changes to this because it is consistent with what the council adopted by ordinance.
Is there any other questions on this section from the commissioners?
So Oliver, just hearing the way that you phrased that, are you asking us to give you specific direction that says we want a change? Or has this discussion been adequate enough to take the question that we're posing, take it back to staff or county manager and ask if this is still the appropriate way to do it?
My response will be yes, we can certainly ask the county manager that question. All I'm saying is that because this is adopted by council and by ordinance, that I'm not proposing that I change what I'm putting in front of you because that is consistent with what was adopted, but I'm hearing what you're saying. I can take that to the county manager and say, we wanted to add this so that the general public and then future applicants to serve on the planning commission knows the process that the council takes or undertakes in appointing new members or reappointing existing members. I can take that back to the county manager. The council often looked at their procedures and rules of procedure or bylaws and amend them as new things come up. Yeah. So this may be an opportunity to take a look at this and see whether they want to amend it. And if they amend it, we can take this back. Like I said, we can hold off on this until I ask the question. So there may not be a hearing on this on March 19. So we can pull it. It hasn't been advertised. I can take this back to the county manager and said, I propose this. Like I said earlier, it's just the intent is to help the public, future applicants to know the current process that the council undertakes.
All right, that seems very fair to me, and I think then it just airs it out for everybody. And if it comes back in this format, then we know that that's the desire of the council and the county manager. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Harun, along the lines of procedures for meetings and workshops and stuff, one of the things that has always kind of bothered me is that we don't allow public testimony in our workshops. And I understand, after spending several nights here in public testimony, while it's not necessarily the most functional of elements, but oftentimes we go through several iterations of something and then we get public testimony right at the hearings level where we're being asked to make a decision. And you go, wow, that's a really good point. I don't think any of us considered that. But then you're kind of forced into a box of making a decision. And it really limits the impact of some of that public testimony that had it been months prior, okay. That had it been months prior, maybe we could have incorporated that in some of our decision and policy making guidance. So I guess my thought is maybe not necessarily like some way of encouraging written testimony or something, some aspect of that. Because I know we always accept written testimony, but we kind of have this, there is something in there that's like, there is no public testimony at these hearings, but I think maybe if we like change something that said, we encourage written testimony, or you could even say a video testimony or something that, that could be included, that we would have then to review and go, oh, hey, this, person has brought a great point and we should discuss that. So that's kind of my thought process there.
Jack, knowing that at some point in time we have to move from testimony into deliberation, it has always felt like if we feel like we're rushed into deliberation, I think that motion can come through us. We can pose questions back to staff. If they don't have the answer, we can keep the public testimony open. We can postpone the aspect of going to deliberation without staff being prepared to give us an appropriate answer. I think some of that pressure that you feel, we have the ability to alleviate, even though it's not popular to not get to the deliberation and to pass a motion. I think if we don't feel prepared or concluded as a group as to whether all of the data or necessary information is in, I think that's on us to kind of speak up to that. And so I understand about the idea, what you're saying. It's like all of a sudden somebody brings a thought process forward. I think that can become a very strong part of the deliberation. Even if public testimony closes out, we don't necessarily have to conclude with a motion that ends that if you don't feel like that's there or we're ready. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. But I think what I'm trying to get at is I think we have a smart public out there with a lot of experts in a lot of areas with a lot of insight. And I would just like to just add, I completely agree with what you're saying, but adding that layer of just encouragement of like a written or a video testimony during the work sessions, like when we're early on in the process, because sometimes you get down so far down the road that a decision is made sometimes just because we are kind of pushed into the box, or maybe we could have crafted better policy with a little more thought and research and time, and then leaning on staff expertise. And So that was all my thing. I'm not trying to blow anything up. I'm just trying to encourage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question, do you want, would you like a statement to be made at the work session saying, get your testimony in early. We really encourage you to submit it in writing or by sending an email or by putting it on the county's website. Is that what you're asking for?
Yes. Yeah.
That makes
Yes.
sense, I think.
So something that if somebody's like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm really concerned about X parcel of land of wetland or something, and you guys are looking at rezoning it, and they might have some real subject matter or something, but that we're just encouraging them instead of saying there's no public testimony at hearings, saying we accept written and video testimony.
Have you ever read the public notice that we post in its entirety?
Well, clearly not. Apparently, if I'm missing something there.
Yeah.
So because I just
read it more times than I need to, I guarantee you, because the people who write it are very good at writing them, and they get a form that conforms with the law, and then they just, fill in the blanks kind of. But I think there is a fair amount of encouragement to send in testimony, and it's like, send it here, send it there, send it to the other place, do it this other way.
and I'm not disputing that that's not there. But if you look at I think the website and said that it's like that there's no public testimony during work session, right? It would be nice for me to see there's no in-person public testimony during work session. However, we would love to, we encourage written testimony to be submitted for the commissioner's review.
And having said all that, there's a particular person that I know that you all know who appears frequently before this body and the county council, and I cannot condemn anyone for this, for submitting testimony on time, but there are a number of folks who submit it on the last day, no matter how long they've known it was coming and what their position was.
No, I'm not trying to open up Pandora's box. I was just saying that, like, maybe if they're like on our website, if it was an appropriate mechanism to say, just encourage. I just had several conversations with different people after the fact saying, well, I wish I could have said something sooner. I'm like, well, you kind of could have, but yeah. So that was it. Not trying to make a huge thing of it. So
Yeah, we are hearing you, and even we have considered anytime we had a work session, and as you know, the work session is supposed to be between the Planning Commission and staff. And following that, you hear me always say that here is the staff in my shop who is working on this project. Reach out to him or her if you have questions. And the public hears us because this is also uploaded on your website, and they have ample time to respond. We have 2 weeks prior to a hearing on a particular subject, so they have ample time to submit comments. What I often say is that I believe the Planning Commission have read all the comments. This is tremendous, challenge, because you can get, hundreds of comments coming in on a particular issue. I can only say I hope you have read them, but all those comments is posted and it's also submitted when we go to the council so that they see all the comments relating to that particular item. I hear what you're saying and we are listening. If we need to amend the notice we put out for the work session, we'll do that. But I think this is an opportunity for staff and the planning commission, and we do the same thing at the council. And, you know, it's an opportunity for you to ask us questions to help you prepare for the hearing or the subject matter. We don't claim to be experts on everything, but on matters of policy, we don't make policy. We help the council and you to develop policy that in your recommendation to the council, they can modify, as you know, they can accept it, they can reject it, that's their role. But we do give the public an ample time to provide comment, depending on
Oliver,
what.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, at the same time, we could add that encouragement to the script for the chair of the meeting.
Mhm.
And it could also be added to the website where comments, where people look if they're interested in the matter, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's not very long.
No. We can add that.
It could show up somewhere on the agenda that everybody downloads or looks at.
Mhm.
And then it would be a matter of whether it's work session or hearing. It would still say the best way to get information in.
Is there anything else from the commissioners?
This is Olive again. I wanted to just briefly touch upon, you may have received emails from the county policy analyst inviting you to appear or attend the work session on March 18th. We, staff, transmitted your recommendation to the council. We had a work session with council, I believe, on Wednesday, the 18th, whereby we were transmitting your recommendation, including the verbatim minutes, your motion, and the table that you helped you and how you voted. And there was a request to have the Planning Commission be present at the next work session. So that's why you received that email. Feel free to attend that March 18th. We're not going, I don't believe the council wanted to have another work session on your recommendation, but if it comes up, I don't know. What I told them is that I'm having this work session today and I will bring it up to the entire PC members, and the email went out to you individually, so you're welcome to attend that March 18th. That work session is slated to be on TDR and the IRLA that the city of Richfield and other cities are asking the council to consider. So I just want to make that observation. I did make an observation, which is true, that often what we staff do is transmit your recommendation to the council. And that is all what we do, including the verbatim minutes. So there is no difference in what we transmit to the council and what you acted on. And I can't recall any time that the Planning Commission members or the chair have appeared before council to give to give kind of like, here's what we recommended. You know, it's different from other boards and commission when they do like a report. The chair or whatever of that board will come before our council to present that. But the Planning Commission is a little bit different. If going forward, that's what you would like to do at the end of your recommendation, you can appoint or vote on one individual or someone to go present your recommendation to the council. that's up to you, but I'm just sharing with you that that request was made, and that's why you got the emails.
For example, the planning commission does a work session on, and then hears applications for
Plan amendments or
plan amendments, annual
reviews
reviews
and
and dockets
right.
before those go to the council. Y'all don't appear as a board, as a body, or send a representative to council to explain your recommendations on them. That just doesn't happen. And what happens is that staff sends your recommendation to the council in a staff report and then appears before the council to provide that recommendation before them in a hearing. So it's interesting to me that the current council is rather short, has a shortish tenure. And some of them haven't done the annual review and docket procedure, so they don't understand that it's not normal for y'all to come there and explain yourselves. But anyway, I don't know whether there was, it sounded like there was a major misunderstanding of typical procedure, but it might not have been. Anyway, that it was a request made by them. So Oliver is passing that along. And we all know that that is not typically what you do. But you can. On the other hand, I don't know that anybody on the planning commission is authorized to speak for the planning commission on any particular matter. So these are things to think about.
All
This is
right,
Commissioner
commissioners, anything else?
Jack,
Yes.
this is Mark. Along the lines of what Chris mentioned, how, the recommendations we make, they go forward. I don't recall ever getting any feedback on what the actual eventual decision was. Is that something that we could get on a regular basis
Would
when
you
we make a
request that?
recommendation? Some feedback?
Well, yeah, Commissioner, you certainly could. On the other hand, it's also the decision occurs in a public hearing that is televised, and the video is available to anybody, and there are usually verbatim minutes and so forth.
I was looking more, Chris, towards something that would like just a brief synopsis. So we didn't have to go spend 3 to 4 or 5 hours watching the action.
Yeah, Planning Commissioner Mark, I do from time to time, like this work session in the past, share with you the outcome of what the council, following their hearing, how they acted on your recommendation. I do provide that, and at your hearing during old business or new business, if there are anything to report that is different, I do share that with the Planning Commission for those that have been here long.
Okay.
Mark, to your point on the city of Vancouver, when I was on the planning commission, every recommendation that we had sent forth, we got a report back on what the council's action was upon our recommendation. So I do get where you're coming from. It is not uncommon.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, this is Kyle. I sat in and listened to the council meeting yesterday, and kind of what I gathered from it was that the some of the counselors may have almost been looking for a synopsis of some of our discussions. And kind of like you mentioned, Oliver, the timeline doesn't seem to really match up because they wanted, it almost seemed like a summary of some of the discussions and the decisions that we made in order to guide their choice on the alternative. But my understanding is that hearing is taking place before this work session that they're wanting us to attend. And I guess I'm also a little confused on how the whole timeline of this might play out, and then what they are ultimately looking for from us. And if we need to maybe, if they're looking for a statement from us, somebody to represent the planning commission, kind of what our steps forward are for meeting with them.
Thank you, Planning Commissioner Carl. Good question. I am not sure because we did share with the council that we had originally scheduled to have a hearing on March 3rd on the preferred, or for them to consider the recommendation of the Planning Commission on the preferred, but that meeting was canceled. So there's no way that they would have had a hearing on the 3rd on the preferred, and I did share with them that hearing was not going to occur. But I think the question really is, from my perspective, it would be, I have not done so in the past. I do not summarize or have been asked to summarize how the Planning Commission voted, because as I indicated to the councillors, which is the case, some of them participated in the two joint hearing, so they listened to the same testimony. We made it very clear that the council is going to go away, that they don't deliberate with the Planning Commission. You deliberate alone and make a recommendation to them. You have a verbatim minutes. I don't know how much more I could offer in the form of a summary of your deliberation, if you will, because that would be me interpreting your thought process. That is not my role.
Yeah, and
I think the fact that they participated and watched, if some of them did, your deliberation, as well as it's posted online, as well as the verbatim minutes. If there is anything different from what staff presented, which is also on the website, then I could see a discomfort from any of the councillors. But that is not the case. I'm not being defensive, but your motion, your clerk who records that motion and who made that motion and who seconded it and how you voted or the deliberation is all part of the verbatim minutes. So if you read the verbatim minutes, you captured what your deliberation and I don't know what's on your mind. So for me to be summarizing that, I will not be doing so. It's not part of my role to summarize, how you voted or your thinking process for that.
And yeah, I share that concern. That was kind of what I was thinking, that, if one of us was to go up and try to summarize our discussions and our decisions, each of us are going to have a different interpretation of what occurred. And so it's tough, I think, for any of us to go up and try to describe the thought process behind each of our decisions.
This is Commissioner Berkfold. Has anyone tried putting the minutes into AI and see what comes out?
No, please.
That might
Don't
be
go
an easy
there.
way to summarize
Please
it.
go ahead.
I don't know if you can see me shaking my head, but
Okay.
if I can verbalize that to what Oliver said. The county is in the process, which it has been for quite some time now, of developing an AI process. All I can say about AI is that there have been way too many attorneys who have been disbarred or otherwise rightfully penalized for using AI in creating legal arguments before the court. I mean, our office has encountered some of these people in litigation against the county, and they come up to the court and present a bunch of case law that doesn't exist, but AI really thought it should and made up the names for it. And it looked great until somebody tried to find these cases and read them. So I am not at this point willing to give my trust to AI in anything with legal significance.
Now, Chris, I was just thinking that maybe
I'm just a
AI
fossil.
using the minutes would come up with, a reasonable synopsis. So nothing
n-
legal.
Not as long as those minutes are evidence, which they are.
And Chris said it very well. You have a court reporter, and we have had Cindy since I've been with the county. She does a very good work, and the verbatim minute speaks for itself. There are some minutes or meetings like this where you can have AI summarize or write the minutes, but AI doesn't know or can't spell my last name. Okay, so it's not a tool. I know in some organization that uses just to summarize minutes, but yours is a little bit different because what we do, as Chris indicated, is collecting an evidence. We do submit the verbatim minutes throughout this process in our index of record. So AI generating that will not be a true representative of your discussion and how you voted and things like. It may get how you voted, but it's not a good tool that we want to use. As you can see here, this meeting says AI assist. Sure, but I have used AI also in meetings and board that I sit to summarize that, but it doesn't do a good job. You still have to go in and rewrite.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the order?
I don't have anything else. This is what we wanted to present before you and see your thoughts, given your questions and issues you raise. We might pool having a hearing on this for March 19th until I share your thoughts with the county manager. And if it doesn't rise to the level of them making changes to this, I can really pull it. I can't change it if it's not consistent with the council practice.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And that, we're adjourned.